Testing. Testing. Can you hear me, right? Okay. I think this is the first lecture, so maybe some students have not yet accustomed to the schedule. Let's wait for a couple of minutes more. Okay. Then I will start briefing you about the arrangement for these subjects, and also after that we'll start our lecture. Okay, let's start. Firstly, let me introduce myself. I'm Joseph Lai from the Department of BEEE, Building, Environment and Energy Engineering. So this subject is BSc 5520, Legal Aspect of Facility Management. So anyone has entered into a wrong classroom? No? Okay, good. So anyone has attended my subject before? Please raise your hand. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, some of you. Okay, I believe the subject you attended should be the one on maintenance, right? Maintenance management. Okay, this is another one, another compulsory subject for our MSc FM program, which is on mainly on laws, legal aspects. So apart from myself, I've also invited my friend who is a lawyer, Mr. William Cha, to come here and share with you his expertise on 2 lectures. Those 2 lectures are on tort law. Okay. So now we are here in this room, right? So regularly we'll have our lectures in this period, and today we are here. Okay. So after a brief subject, I would say a short subject briefing, I would talk about the basics, right? The basic for this subject, which are also the essential knowledge you need to know about the Hong Kong legal system. Okay. So you should regard this lecture as a foundation, based on which we will talk more about the details about contract law for FM, and also tort law for FM. And then we will move on to talk about some statutory requirements. That means those requirements under the laws, the legislation in Hong Kong. Okay. So, and those statutory requirements are including those on building management matters and also those particularly on building services installations. And of course, we will also have one lecture here, which is on building works, or sometimes people call it builder's work. Right? So, and then we have some activities. As you can see here, in-class activity on the 26th of this month, and also two more in early February and also around mid-February, in-class activity. Okay, in-class activity. So be prepared to attend classes, right? Try your best, right? Although it is not entirely compulsory that you need to attend classes 100%, but you are strongly recommended to come because these class activities would help you learn more and could help you prepare better for the later assessments. Okay. So what to do in these in-class activities? No hurry. I will brief you later. Okay. But just to let you know that be prepared to come to this in-class activity. After that, we'll have a Lunar New Year break. Then we'll have some lectures following. And here we'll have a test, 9th of March, right? Which will be an in-class test. You need to come, okay? All students should come, have to come, okay? And the test, if following the previous practice, it will be one on based on some multiple choice questions, MC. It is a closed book test, okay? And this test would account for 20% of the subject mark, all right? Then some other activities you should also come. That is the seminar presentation sessions, 23rd and 30th. Okay. So for the seminar projects, I will brief you here, 26th of January. In this lecture, I will give you a briefing about what to do for the seminar project. Okay. But the deadline for you to submit your seminar file would be, I would say, very sufficient time for you to prepare. So because I will give you the briefing on 26th of January, we're asking you to submit your file not until 23rd of March. Okay, so almost 2 months. Okay. So that seminar project will be on a group basis, which will be a group project. And I will ask you to group among yourself later, after the add-drop period. Because now we are in the add-drop period, right? Almost the first 2 weeks. Some students may decide to drop, and some students may wish to add to this class. Okay, so after that add-drop period, we will do the grouping. Okay, but I will give you further information later, not now. Okay, regarding the grouping. But seminar projects will be done on a group basis. Then this one should be Easter holiday. And after that, we'll have a final session on review, tutorial, Q&A, doing some revisions, highlight to you the key things you need to pay attention to and in preparing for the exam. Right. After that, of course, it will be an exam. So exam will be 50%. Okay, seminar project will account in total 30%. And that in-class activity would contribute to 5% of these 30%. Okay. So although it's a small component, now I will give you more details later for the in-class activity. Okay. No worry, no hurry. Okay. So that's all about the overall arrangement, right, regarding this the timetable, teaching schedule for this subject. Any questions? regarding teaching schedule? Any questions? No? Okay. Good. Then okay, let me move on brief about the objectives. Objectives. Okay. Objectives of this subject. Why do you need to study this subject? What are the aim or objectives? So this subject aims to provide students with a clear understanding of what? Of number one, structure and operation of the Hong Kong legal system. Okay. There are lots of legal requirements. Okay. So for students dealing with facility management, if they don't understand the structure and operation of the legal system here, it could be very risky. Right? People may fall into traps, may violate the laws. Okay. And understand the sources and functions of regulatory control. Okay, sources, where can you find the laws? Where can you find the legal requirements? What are their functions? Why do we need to have such laws? Okay, and in particular, we will concentrate on these two as part of our subject, tort law and contract law. These two are very important areas of law in relation to facility management. Okay, although there are many other areas of law, okay, but these two are highly important in FM. Okay, and then, as I said, I will further share with you the statutory requirements on different areas. One on building management. The other two, one is on fabric, that means builder's work, and one more is on building services. So what are these statutory requirements on building management, on building fabric, on building services? Right? We have some lectures covering these areas. Okay. Now, like just a recent incident, where a tragic incident, the big fire, right, in Hong Kong, right, happened not long ago, right? You know that one happened in Tai Po in an estate. That big fire was associated with actually some maintenance work, statutory requirements on maintenance work. That building, that estate, I mean buildings in that estate were under renovation, right? Because what? Because the purpose of those renovation works were to improve the conditions of those buildings. But unfortunately, right, the disaster occurred. Okay, so that's why it's so important to understand the statutory requirements. Okay, and then what are the compliance procedures? So assuming you know the requirements, how to comply with those requirements? What are the procedures? Okay, and what if people do not comply with these procedures? What would be the consequences? Non-compliance consequence, right? What would be the results, right? Is it punishment? Is it imprisonment? Paying certain fines or what? Okay. So learning outcomes, presumably, if you could complete this subject, you should be able to take into account the operation of the Hong Kong legal system when managing FM services, right? And well, actually, I have uploaded this set of slides on Blackboard, so you don't need to take photos, right? Have you got these slides from Blackboard? Yes, okay. And B, and then identify the sources and information and also the rights and obligations liability in the laws of tort and contract especially. Okay, what are the rights, obligations, and liabilities? And a further learning outcome is apply relevant legal knowledge to comply with the statutory requirements in managing building, in upkeeping, building fabric, and building services. Okay. Finally, the final outcome, observe the procedures required and consequences of non-compliance. So people who understand the consequences of non-compliance, they would be less likely to violate the law, right? Because the law setting with some punishments, fine, right, certain levels of imprisonment and so on. One of the main purposes is to deter people from violating the law. Okay, so if they understand the consequences, it's less likely that they would violate those requirements. Okay, any questions so far? No? Okay, good. Now my practice for my lectures, so officially it is a 3-hour lecture where I will start more or less on time, assuming all of you could come on time. And then I would break my lectures into, break it into 3 sessions. So the first session would be around 50 minutes. That means I will give you a break around 7:20. Then for a short break for around 10 minutes. And then we'll start again for the second session. And then we'll have the second break at around 8:20 for another 10 minutes. Okay. Until then the final session will be until the end, of our scheduled end time. Okay. So the purposes of breaking the 3-hour lectures into 3 media sections is, number one, people's concentration could not last long. Okay. So usually 45 minutes, 50 minutes for each media section, right? Would be good enough. Number two, because the lectures now we are giving will be recorded, it has been recorded, okay? So to facilitate recording and retrieval of recording, it's good to break the recordings into divided sessions rather than a 3-hour big session. Okay, it's time consuming to upload it and time consuming to download it. Okay. Okay. So if in case, right, you find that you don't see this symbol, okay, this symbol, okay, remind me. That means what? That means I forget recording. Okay. So if you can't see this symbol, remind me, because here for my lectures, I need to click here to record, pause, or stop recording. Okay. So now it's being recorded. Okay. Any further questions? No? Okay. Okay. Our first lecture on fundamentals of the Hong Kong legal system. Okay, this is me. For this subject, actually, I designed this subject. I was the one who launched this subject many, many years ago. This was the first subject I launched, in terms of legal aspect of facility management in Hong Kong. So that was around, now it's 2026, right? 2026. The first year should be around 2007, around 19 years ago. Time flies. Over the years, more and more people recognize the importance of this subject. I mean, the contents of this subject about the legal requirements of FM or FM. And of course, the requirements will also change. Some of them change over time. Okay. And I try my best to provide you the most updated information, but you know, in preparing the materials, maybe say next week or the week after, there will be a change, right? So in case you note some latest changes, please let me know, okay? Although I try my best to update the materials. So this lecture, the main subsections include what is the legal system in Hong Kong, what is its structure, what are the laws in Hong Kong, how are they organized, okay? And what are the sources? Where can you find such laws, okay? Which of them you need to follow in dealing with facility management? And the hierarchy meaning the structure. We have a hierarchy defining which of those requirements are of higher authority, which of them are of lower authority. So this is something very important we need to understand, okay? Literary sources. So for sources, particular types is called literary. So what are literary sources? I will also explain this to you and share with you the main literary sources. Finally, you also need to at least have some basic understanding on what are the costs, what are the various costs in Hong Kong, and what decisions these different costs would make on what sort of cases. Because in facility management, we could have a variety of cases about facility management. It could be about contract, it could be about tort, right? So what are the functions of this course and what decision this course would make? Okay, very basic introduction. The sovereignty of Hong Kong was transferred back to China in 1997, which we call it handover, right? I think everybody knows, right? If you don't know, please raise your hand. Right? This is particularly relevant and important to Chinese people, right? 1997. But before that, you know, Hong Kong was a British colony, right? And therefore, we had the English common law system here in Hong Kong. And we also still having this system. So our existing legal system was modeled on the English common law system, okay? So according to the basic law, I hope you know what basic law is, right? It's Article 81 states clearly the judicial system previously practiced. That means before 1997, in Hong Kong shall be maintained, except for those changes subsequent, blah, 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 okay? So this is what when setting the basic law before 1997, it was decided that the judicial system, like the legal system in Hong Kong, which was the English common law system, shall be maintained. And that's why now we still have this common law system here in Hong Kong, right? Unlike China, right? Where there is a civil law system. But here we have the common law system, okay? So in fact, different places around the world, some of them are adopting the common law system, some are having the civil law system, okay? Say in some big country, in different states, they are adopting different systems, even within the same country. For some parts of the country, they may be having the common law system. Another part of the country, they may be having the civil law system. Okay. But how now in Hong Kong, we have this common law system. Okay, this chapter will show you the fundamentals, including the hierarchy and sources of law in Hong Kong. And as I said, the literary sources, and also the jurisdictions of courts and tribunals in Hong Kong. Jurisdictions meaning say the scope of governance, power, control, administration, right? What these courts and tribunals could design. Okay, it's talking about jurisdictions. So that's why the proper understanding is prerequisite to FM students. So before I come tonight, I checked the class list. Many of you are our MSc FM students, right? Some of you are from the other programs like high performance building, BSE, right? Carbon neutralities, right? These different programs, right? And those students should be taking this subject as an elective subject, right? If you are not from the MSc FM program. If you are from the MSc FM program, you should be taking this subject as a compulsory subject, right? Okay. The first point here, why do we need to have a legal system? Why? Because it allows the operation of laws. We may have a wide range of laws, many laws, right? But if you don't have a proper system, the operation of these laws may not be proper, right? So that's why we need to have a system. We need to be organized, okay? So, and such a system would actually comprises various things, including a conclusion of a collection of laws. Now, I will show you these laws later, okay? A collection, meaning what? Not just one, two, or a few. A collection implying many. A collection, okay? And also the system comprises processes. What are those processes? Now, to have a law in place, we actually have many steps, but in short, we should at least have a process for creating the law, interpreting the law, applying the law, enforcing the law, right? These are some very basic processes. Okay. And these processes form part of the legal system. And we also need what? Institutions. With a system, we need to have some parties to do things. What are those parties? The legislature, like including, say, the laws, right? Legislature. Courts, we have the courts to make judgments. We have the judges here in the courts. We have police sometimes. We need police to help us to enforce the law, for example. Right? So these are just some examples. And we could have some buildings departments, right? Electrical and mechanical services departments who are acting as some departments who help to enforce the laws. You will see later, okay? And we need people, personnel, right? These personnel would include, for example, those legislators, members of the Legislative Council, right? We just have the new the new cohort of Legislative Council members, right? Elected. And we have judges in the courts. We also have lawyers, right? These are personnel under the legal system, okay? So I mentioned again and again, common law system. What actually it is about. A common law system, on the right-hand side, it includes the legislation. Okay, legislation. On the left-hand side, there's a big branch called decisional law or case law. Cases tried in courts with decisions made. So from this case law, it could be divided into two branches. One on the left are the principles of common law. On the right are rules of equity. So I will explain to you these one by one. Okay. So all these together form the common law system, which we are having now in Hong Kong. Okay. And be careful. I mean, in reading documents, you need to be clear about the terminologies. Laws and rules. We have laws, you have rules, right? So what are laws? What are rules? Laws are rules enforced by the government. Okay. The government recognize such rules and enforce such rules. These rules are laws. Okay. When they are breached, that means if they are not followed, are breached, not followed. Okay. Remedies can be sought from the relevant courts. Remedies, one example is, for example, compensations. You know compensations, right? Remedies. Compensations is just one example. There are many other types of remedies available. Compared to laws, rules could be those made by a private club, for example. Those rules made by a private club will not be enforced by the government. Those are private rules. See the difference? Okay. Now, from these slides, maybe you'll find some terms that you may not have come across, like breached, remedies, right? So I'm not sure if you have come across these terms before, but in the later lectures, you'll find some more terms that you may not come across, may not have come across before. So what I would suggest you to do is okay, find a dictionary. All right. It's up to you if you would like to find a hard copy one. This is just one example. Okay. There are many publishers publishing dictionary of law. Okay. And you could also have some online dictionary. Okay. So you just punch in, say, law dictionary online, say, I mean, you are not confined, limited to these online dictionaries. There are many of them. Okay. Why? Because what? Because you'll find for example, oh, you don't understand. Or you don't understand remedy. Okay. Then you can use this kind of dictionary to tell you, okay, because remedy in medical terms, there's a definition. The remedy in legal terms, there's another definition. Right? Okay. And some very specific legal term you will see later, you can't find them in an ordinary dictionary. You can only find the meaning in the law dictionary. Okay. So to be honest, this is just the beginning. I have to be honest. Okay. Why? Okay. Taking this opportunity, I have to let you know the facts. This subject is not easy. I have to tell you. Okay. Unless you have a legal background. Okay. So, like, take the last year cohort as an example. Some students fail. Okay. So if you find, I mean, say after tasting this lecture, if you're interested, you find what I'm talking about is very useful and you would like to stay, please stay. Okay. But after this lecture, you find that it's really difficult to you, say, especially you can't understand lots of the English terms, right, the meaning and so on. You really need to rethink, okay, whether you should stay. Okay. Okay, like in the past last year, actually 7 students failed the exam. Okay, but because of the coursework, then eventually 4 students fail overall. Okay, so of course some good students could also get A range, right? A few of them fail, so you know the spectrum is very wide, right? Some students very excellent performance, some students very poor performance. Okay, so after this lecture, you can really think about and consider. Okay, so but I will try to help you, right? Especially for those who are interested, who would like to stay with this class. Okay. And another suggestion for you is maybe you have heard from the previous graduates, or you can also download some past exam papers, right? You have access to some past exam papers through our library system. You can now, I mean, after tonight's lecture, you can download some of the past exam questions and then take a look. Then you will feel, right? You will have a feeling, basic understanding of the level of difficulty, what kind of questions you would expect to see in the coming exam. Okay? These are some suggestions to you. Okay? Okay, classifications of law. Law can be categorized according to its origin, forms, and purposes. So origins, forms, and purposes. So we can classify laws in terms of, for example, some of them are national laws, legal rules applied internally in a particular country. Okay? International law between countries. International treaties, agreements among separate sovereign states, between countries. International. And we could also classify laws by whether they are public or private. Public law concerning the power of the government, constitutional law, administrative law, these are public laws. Private law among individuals. One good example is contract law. Contract law is actually a kind of private law. Why? Because say there may be a contract between you and the shop. Say when you go to 7-Eleven, right, to buy a soft drink, a bottle of soft drink. So then there is actually a contract between you and 7-Eleven. That is under contract law, and that is private contract law. That's the contract between you and 7-Eleven, as an example. Okay? Criminal law defines activities that constitute crimes, very serious. So the other side is civil law, concerned with defining the legal rights and obligations owed to one another, providing remedies for such obligations. Say, for example, party A and party B, party A owes B some money, right, but is unable to return the money. Right? That could lead to a civil case, right? But crime like a thief, a robber, okay? Robbery, theft, these are crimes. So that is under criminal law. Power to make laws. Who has the power? LegCo, in short. In long form is Legislative Council in Hong Kong. So according to Basic Law, Article 73, the LegCo enacts ordinances. Okay? These ordinances form the skeleton of the statutory laws in Hong Kong. Okay, so what are ordinances? Okay, here, this website, Hong Kong e-legislation. Right, you can easily find this website. It lists, so we have what? A large number of chapters. We call it chapter. So each chapters, meaning so each chapter of ordinance. So ordinance are here. So we could have chapter 1, that is you may regard it as the number 1 ordinance, interpretation, general clauses, ordinance. And here 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, this is somewhat like the parents, mother, okay? These are 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, like sons and daughters, okay, within the same family. You regard them is called subsidiary legislation. Number 2 is another one, public finance ordinance, and also a family of, say, family members, including sons and daughters here. So we are in the building sector, right? So if you would like to know more familiar, here. Okay, this one is called chapter. The short form is CAP, CAP. Right? The full title should be chapter. 1, 2, 3 is number 1, 2, 3, which is buildings ordinance. Okay. So in facilities management, if you are looking after buildings, of course, you need to know this buildings ordinance. And okay, another example like okay, another one, chapter 344, which is not buildings ordinance, but building management ordinance. Okay. So this is an example of ordinance. Then you'll find, say, usually for an ordinance, they have the long title, short title, and then some interpretation, defining terms, interpretation, and then the detailed requirements. Okay. And you can, through this website, download this ordinance for free. Okay. Say, for example, somehow, say you say at night you find it difficult to fall asleep, then you can download a copy of the ordinance and try to read it. Right? After reading for maybe half an hour, then you feel tired and then you can easily fall asleep. Okay, now it's time, as I said, to give you a short break. Okay, and we'll continue after the break.